Let's learn how we can start leveraging Assistant's API when it comes to having a lot of data on our company. E.g., we got a ton of files we got to filter through. Let's find the most effective way for us to actually filter through these files so we get the most effective answers when leveraging Assistant's API for our company. We're going to be using the software of Zapier. Of course, we're going to be using OpenAI as well. Combining these two, we're going to be able to leverage it with a no-code solution that's going to allow us to access certain files that we care about to answer certain questions all automatically. Let's jump in. Welcome back to OpenAI, y'all. This is going to be a technical video here. We're going to be diving into using Zapier and OpenAI to start leveraging Assistant's API in the context of if we have a lot of files on a company, how we're going to be able to cipher through those files. Because if you load an Assistant's API with a ton of files and then ask it a question, it's too much data. It needs to be able to look at file by file, and we're going to learn how to do that today. As you see with this crazy cat over here, I went ahead and announced this on my Twitter. So make sure you're following me here if you want to get a little early updates about what's about to happen on this channel, if I can speak. But let's go and jump into today's video. So the example we're going to do today is we're going to take the place of a real estate company. So if you're a real estate company, you just hit the jackpot. The way we're going to approach today's video, though, is I'm going to provide two separate properties. I'm going to provide the relevant data on those properties. I'm going to straight down, y'all. We'll provide the relevant data on those properties. How did he get this data? So this is our real estate GPT. You can check it out on our marketplace if you want to get it yourself. But essentially, I just asked it to give me two different properties in Miami. We got the North Pinecrest home, and then we got the Paragon Miami Beach, hashtag 801. So the way we're going to approach this is we're going to have specific data files associated with each one of these homes. Why? Because we wouldn't want to load an entire Assistant's API with one PDF that has like 100 homes. Maybe each PDF would have a selection of homes, e.g. in the Miami Beach 801, maybe we had 801 through 805 on a select PDF. This will make more sense. Knowing this though, we went ahead and just created two separate files here so you can kind of understand the use case here and then you can apply it to your own business. We got the first data-oriented file, which is going to be the Paragon Miami Beach, hashtag 801, for all the relevant information about this house. And then we got the second file here. So I went ahead and exported these as a PDF, and this is the data we're going to be using today. You're going to learn how to filter this data and basically select the correct one for our Assistant API. Let's find out. Okay, so to start off here, we're going to go ahead and just create our assistant. I'm going to go zoom in, y'all. And let's go and begin here. So the first assistant I want you to create is going to be called like company data. You can obviously call whatever you want. This is where you're going to throw every single file that is associated with your company into this assistant. On top of that, your next question might be, okay, how much data do I want to do per file? I would say you want to do a max of 5 pages on a Google Doc at 12 Roman font or 12 font. Why? If you load too much data into one file, it's going to be too much. It's going to lead to more ineffective answers. Just the name of the game here is you'd rather have more files with less data than one really big file. And if you're watching this video, you definitely agree with me. So knowing that though, we're going to call this you are our database for our real estate company. So you're going to go ahead and add whatever you want in the context of this Assistant's API. This one's more of a internal use API, as you'll see here. This isn't going to be front facing. Consumers aren't going to be able to see the instructions here. So we're just going to do that. And, I'll go and go to GPT-4 preview since they slashed the prices by 66% here. I'm going to do retrieval here. And then I'm going to add the two files. So file number 1 and file number 2. For context, this is what the file looks like. As I said before, you can get up to 5. Even 10 pages if you want to play around with it, but this is what the file looks like. So when we jump back over here, we have loaded our company data assistance API. I'm gonna hit save here. Make sure retrieval is on as well, due to the fact that we need to actually access our underlying PDFs. So the reason I went ahead and created an assistance API dedicated to our company data is because we can go ahead and test in the playground. Before I show you that, you alternatively could upload your data files straight on the file section here and hit upload over here. But I like creating it as an assistance API. And the reason why is now I can test it in the playground and I can almost use this as an internal use case. E.g., I loaded with all my company data here, and I'm like, hey, the property, and then let me go ahead and get the property's name real quick. The Miami Beach 801, not that. Give me some information on this. So if you load this with a ton of information, now you're kind of going to put yourself in a position where you can actually cipher through your data internally in your company. So this is its own use case, but we're going to also leverage it in today's tutorial. This is nice to know. That being said, I will say that the generation does take a little bit more time than I found, using it in like a fine-tuned GPT, if we use it on ChatGPT's front end. But as you see here, we got the relevant information here. So use that as you want. I put the very simple instructions of you are our database for a real estate company and kind of left it there. Use it how you will, use it how you must. Now let's jump into the automation here. Coming over to Zapier, we're gonna go ahead and create a new Zap here. And in this Zap, we're going to do an event. So basically the use case I'm going to show in this tutorial is I'm going to say incoming email from a potential lead asking about a specific property. Once that lead asks about that specific property, we're going to cipher through the data that we have in our database. We're going to find our specific file that is about that specific property, and we're going to mock up an entire draft email to respond to that individual, and then gives us the discretion to essentially press send, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to simply put Gmail, use whatever software you are currently using. So you might be using Outlook. We're going to say new email, matching search. We're going to continue here. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose our courses account here, as you see with that little course down there. And I'm going to go ahead and hit continue here. I'm going to send myself a fake email here so we can kind of play around with it. Okay, so however you typically receive leads, this is going to be pertinent to you. So I'm going to show you two ways to kind of internalize this. The first way is that when you say email matching search, we can either find the specific property name in the subject line or in the body. Knowing this though, we're going to go ahead and just proceed with sending our email like this. But in theory, let's say that your subject line isn't typically fixed and the property name might not show up in there, but it might show up in the body. There's going to be ways we can approach this, and we're going to approach that together here. So we got our test data here. As you probably can expect, you probably want to send yourself test data here, or typically how a lead comes in. I'm going to go ahead and rechange this to real estate draft. And okay, so we're going to go ahead and match searching string. We're going to go ahead and say question. Put question for that. So it might be something entirely different for you. I'm going to continue here. I'm going to go ahead and test this trigger. So alternatively, if you don't want to take this route, right? So this route's a little bit more, I have fixed text found within all of my lead emails, but your route might be, I don't really get fixed text in all my emails. I actually get like someone just randomly contacted my email about a property or whatever it may be in your context. In that context, we're going to go ahead and switch this up. We're going to say new email. We're going to continue here, and we're just going to choose our inbox. So let's go and do that. Continue and test trigger. So it's going to bring in every single email here. But in order to ensure that we're not burning our capacity here when it comes to Zapier, because we don't want random like, hey, your MailChimp subscription's up or something like that. We're going to add a first block here, which is going to be a kind of a block that basically identifies whether this is a lead email or not. So to do so, we're going to do categorization. We're going to continue. And we're going to say, based on this, we'll do this context. We are a real estate company. Based on this email, semicolon, we're going to say subject, body. Now, a lot of times people use software where you kind of identify there's going to be fixed text found within that email that you can kind of like, don't have to do this step. But this is for everyone that maybe doesn't do that kind of software and uses software or just gets like random emails that are actually lead generating emails. We're going to say generate yes. Let me go zoom in, y'all. And let me go zoom in over here. Generate yes if this is a potential lead for a property, and no if this is not. Okay, so let's see if this is sufficient or not. It may not be sufficient. I'm gonna go ahead and up my model to GPT-4. Where are you at? There we are. And from here, we're gonna add a memory key of just lead. So lead, okay, so memory key is the random 32 character string that ensures consistent outputs. E.g., if this comes out as just yes, or this comes out as just no, that's exactly what we want. We don't want extraneous characters, as you'll see why. On top of that, notice how I put quotation marks here due to the fact that I want it to be very specific on its output. Just give me yes, just give me no. On top of that, notice how when I identify underlying data within the actual automation itself, it says subject here, but I put subject again. That's because when this ChatGPT block reads it, it's not actually going to see the word subject. Therefore, I need to add it myself. Also added parentheses to basically condense the data and make sure there's no overlapping information occurring. From here, I'm going to continue. I'm going to test this step, and we should either get a yes or a no. In this context, we should get a yes. And we got a yes. Let's go. Okay, so knowing that, we're going to add a filter block. We're adding a filter block so that basically, if the email says, if that output is no because the email receipt is not a lead, we are not going to continue this flow because it's just MailChimp telling me to renew my subscription. No, MailChimp, I'm not going to renew my subscription. So we're going to say exactly matches yes. We're going to continue. We're going to get a green light here, but just for the sake of showing you, if I put no here, it will only continue if no occurs. But we wouldn't want that to happen. So we want to say yes. We'll put yes here. I'm going to continue. And here we go. So we have set up our filter. Now we are going to only handle and deal with emails that are specific to lead information. So let's get into the fun stuff here. We're going to add a ChatGPT block. And the purpose of this ChatGPT block is going to be for the discretion of finding the specific file for Assistant's API. That kind of sounded crazy. It's not too bad, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and say conversation. Continue, continue. And this is where it's gonna get a little crazy, but that's kind of the purpose. So I'm gonna go ahead and up my model here to GPT 3.56. Actually, no, we don't need to do that anymore. We can do GPT 3.5 Turbo. Let me see if I can find it, y'all. Where is it at? So we're gonna choose this one, y'all. So this is the one that's the most updated version of it. That's why it's like November 6th. That's what 1106 means. And what OpenAI did on their end is they basically made it from the original value. If you've been playing with ChatGPT a lot, it was originally capped at, when it was this 3.5 Turbo, at 4K context. What does that mean? Basically how much data it can handle. But now with the new 3.5 Turbo, it can handle 16K. I think it's every 750 tokens is about a page of writing. Don't quote me on that. Okay, so why are we opening it to 16K or 3.5 Turbo is because we're going to be dealing with a lot of data here. E.g., if you have a lot of files, this is how we're going to structure it. So we're going to go ahead and say this. Based on this email, we're going to go ahead and put in the email title, the email body. And honestly, just to dot our I's and cross our T's, we'll add this context block as well. Might as well give a little bit of context here. Now, that being said, you don't need to add context to Assistant APIs, as you'll find here really soon. So context, we are a real estate company. Based on this email, we're going to add the, not title, subject. And we're going to do email subject here. And we're going to do email body here. So we're going to provide basically all the relevant information found in the email. We're going to say, find what property is being referenced. So then this is where it gets a little bit crazy, y'all. So as we know in that original email, if I come back over here, we are referencing the North Pinecrest home. But we may have a ton of homes in our selection. So what I'm about to show y'all is kind of complex, would have required a lot of coding back in the day, but now that we have ChatGPT, it's pretty easy. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and grab the names of the underlying files that we have. So for this specific context, since we're dealing with responding and setting up a draft, we just have two. For your context, you would add as many files as possible, or as many files as you have, right? So here's the big thing though. We have the underlying file and we've named the file correctly, right? So we go over to files here. We've named the file, as you see here, you know, the Paragon Miami home.pdf.pdf. Here's what is important, y'all. You have to have .pdf in order for Assistant's API to understand it. So what we're going to do here is this. We're going to say generate the home that is being referenced in the output. Have it so there is a .pdf at the end. Let's see if this is enough. This might not be enough. I'm gonna do 32 character string, continue, test action. If it's not enough, we're gonna restructure our prompts. And that's why the memory key is important here, right? So we should see the North Pinecrest home.pdf. If we don't, we got to rephrase this. As you see, completely off base. We're dealing with a less smart model comparative to GPT-4. So let's go ahead and restructure this. What property name is found in the email? Okay. All right, generate. We're going to use the same terminology here as well. This is actually pretty important. So instead of saying home over here, I'm going to use the same variable of property. Generate the property that is being referenced in the output. Okay. Now we're going to roll the dice again. In order to roll the dice again, we're going to add a 1 there. It's going to refresh the memory key. Think of a memory key as like a new chat in ChatGPT. We want to start the chat fresh. All right, so we're getting closer. As you see, we got the property being referenced is the north. The property being referenced is North Pinecrest home. You can generate this information about this property by creating a PDF document. See, like it kind of understands what I'm doing here, but it doesn't fully. So let's go ahead and try this. I'm going to zoom out in. Let's go ahead and try this again. And basically the name of the game is we're trying to get it out. So it's just this, right? So we're going to say this. The output should just be the property name no text before or after. I don't typically like adding EGs in prompts, but let's just try it. So we're kind of giving it as an example so that it can reference other properties. Let's see what we got going on here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the memory key again, hit continue, and retest the step. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe, as I show troubleshooting and prompt engineering live like this. I don't want to give you just like, here's the prompt, because this is going to give you perspective of how I troubleshoot and when dealing with this kind of stuff as well. Also, make sure to leave a like if you felt like you've learned something up to this point. So, did he just do that? I just did that. Okay, here we go. So we got our we got our output. Perfect, right? That's exactly how we want it, and we've locked it in with our memory key. E.g., if you run through this flow again, and we had the Bergen Miami Beach .801, it would come out the same way. Let's go and move forward, y'all. So moving forward is going to be another ChatGPT block here. So with this ChatGPT block, we're going to do an event of find a file. So this is where the discretion of creating that original Assistance API, the company data one, let me reload here. Oh yeah, I haven't created the other one yet. So this is where that discretion comes into play. Because what is the file name we're searching for? All right, perfect. So we got in our output here. Boom. And just to send home, the reason we use 3.5 turbo here is so you can do a ton of files, y'all. So if you have a ton of files for your company, you could put 40 here, you could put 50 here. Don't worry. That's the whole point of this tutorial, is to show you how to decipher through a bunch of data and find your specific things. That being said though, if you have a lot of data, what I would tell you to do in that context is I would tell you to set up a paths block. Why am I telling you to set up a paths block? Set up a paths block, and if you have, I would say, over 40 files, 50 files you're handling, you want to set up a paths file where basically you go down a certain path depending on what specific file is being looked for. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that kind of tutorial. That's a little bit more complex, but just for the use case of this tutorial, which is more of just make sure we can find the right data, we're going to continue with this. So knowing that, we have the file name search for, the file purpose is for assistance, perfect, continue to step, and we're going to find our file that we've uploaded to our database. Okay, we are almost done, y'all. So now that we have our file, we need to set up a different assistance API. So coming back over here, we're going to say create. And this one's going to be, we're just going to call it real estate agent. I'm going to say you are a real estate agent for Miami Flamingo properties. So if you guys want to buy a house in Miami, let me know in the comments. No, I'm joking. We'll leave it at that. We actually don't need to provide any more. You can provide more context if you choose to do so. This should be enough for me. I like using GPT-4 preview in the context of actually dealing with very complex stuff. One thing you'll notice is I'm not going to add any files here. So add more instructions as you deem necessary, e.g. Tone. Funny. Well, let's see if it can do humor. We're going to hit save here. Make sure retrieval is on. No files. Why are we doing no files, Corbin? Because that's the whole point of company data. That's the data we're grabbing for the specific context that we're handling. Knowing that, we're going to go ahead and open up our last little block here. So we're going to do action here, ChatGPT. And this is what we're going to do, conversation with assistant. There we go. Hit continue. And let's go ahead and fill in some information here. So the first piece of information here we can fill in is going to be choosing our agent, real estate agent. The second piece of information we want to choose here is going to be the file we're specifically talking to. Find file. We're going to choose ID. This is how APIs communicate with each other. We're going to find the relevant information, and we're going to gut check this. Don't worry. We're going to find the relevant information found within that file. So basically the whole point of this process, right, is instead of me going to this real estate agent and loading 50 different files and then asking for it to choose from it, we've kind of added an insurance measure where we do this entire process right here in order to just give it the one file that is pertinent and relevant for that specific use case. Because guess what? If I'm just inquiring about the Pinecrest home, I don't really care about the apartments. I don't really care about the other properties you have. I only care about that one. So that's the whole point of this, right? This is going to lead to better outputs here. We're going to choose our tools here. We're going to make sure we have retrieval. Got an ID, retrieval, existing files, perfect. And we got a message here. We're going to say, we received an email interested in this property. How do we know what property it is, Corbin? because that is where we set up that 3.5 block. So we can only give context right here. Boom. Generate a draft email that responds to this person's inquiry asking about the property. So this being said, you might be like, oh, what if there's more information in the email itself? That's fine. What I would tell you to do is add another 3.5 block really cheap, really fast, get a summarization of the underlying context of the questions asked, and then add that here as well. Point of this tutorial, though, is just to show you how to play around with data and find the exact files for the specific use case. Knowing that, though, we're going to spell this correct. We're going to go ahead and come down here. We're going to hit continue. We're going to test the step, and let's see if we get a draft email, y'all. So it looks like it works over here. As you see, we got our relevant information about the North Pinecrest home here, $4.7 million. Coming over here, let's go check it. $4.7 million. Let's see what else we got here. We got 5,100 square feet. Coming over here, 5,100 square feet. So we know that it actually is internalizing, reading the data, and it's good to go. I did tweak a little bit of the structure, y'all. So I wanted to add a formatter block here so we're not getting too much context. This is just important. So let's say, you want to use less information in the email itself. Typically draft emails, you don't want to have too much. So the max of 5 sentences. On top of that, I added this little line here that says give details on the underlying property. And finally, one last thing here is I went ahead and actually, because we already uploaded the file to our Assistants API, we can actually just have it as an existing file. So put the ID in existing file rather than new file, and you'll be good to go here. So let's go ahead and just show this all working here. So I'm going to add one last block here, which is going to be a Gmail block. This is going to be the block we use to set it up where once we receive an inquiry like this, we can go ahead and set up a draft. Therefore, all I have to do on my end is kind of read over the draft. If I'm satisfied, proceed from there. So I'm going to go ahead and name the title here. So it's going to be a fixed title or a subject title here. So I'll just put in the name of the property. So North Pinecrest Home. Coming over your body, I'm going to go ahead and go to the conversation assistant. Let's get the reply here. If I come over to the reply real quick. Also, one other thing that I changed from the original inquiry or the Assistants API of our real estate agent is I took away the tone of funny because it was low-key. It was very annoying the way the answers were coming out. Like, some humor is just not funny at all, y'all. So I just kind of took that one out as well. But from here, I'm going to go ahead and hit continue, test this step, and we should be sending an email to no one. Let me actually send this to myself real quick. So we have to do 2 to someone. So because I said this to myself already, I'm going to go ahead and just put our email again here. This would be the email that's coming from. So for example, your from email would be a completely different lead email. I'm going to go ahead and do this again. I'm going to retest this step again. And one other thing I want to point out, y'all, is that because we actually know the underlying property we're speaking of, and because we know the specific file and data we're receiving for that property, you could actually add another step here where we find a Google Drive block. We use a Google Drive block. We find a file in Google Drive, and then we can, on top of that, attach a lead PDF for that specific inquiry. That being said, I did a tutorial on this, so check it out. I'll try to link it here if I can find it. I did a whole tutorial on this on how to do that whole process. But for now, we should come over to our inbox here and find our new email. All right, so since we set it up as a draft here, I'm going to click this. And there we go, y'all. So obviously we can restructure the way the emails are sent. We could probably go to the Assistants API, add more instructions on how we typically talk, example emails, stuff of this nature. But as you see here, we got our property, Miami Flamingo Properties LLC. We got a relevant email with a relevant information, and we have successfully figured out, y'all, how to take Assistants APIs. And if we have a ton of data for our company, now we know how to basically sort it, find it, and use the correct one so we're not running into issues as we scale with these kind of solutions. So with that all being said, make sure to leave a like if you feel like you learned something up to this point or near the end of this video. If you enjoyed this style of video and you want to see more of it, make sure to subscribe, but also check out the playlist at the end here as I'm diving into automation solutions, artificial intelligence, and how to apply this in other parts of your business. So you can check that out. Also, I did a whole playlist on AI tools for your business where I'm just comparing tools based off my experience, which ones you should even use if you're starting out here. And that being said, I know this is pretty complex, so I doubt you got this far. But if you haven't even used artificial intelligence in Zapier before, check out this 40-minute video where I basically show you how to integrate the two and give more context on everything associated with that. But without further ado, y'all, I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for tuning in. And yes, surprise, I'm an AI avatar. Make sure to explore more here at Corbin AI, where we demystify AI for your personal and business life. Until next time.